You ever see a headline that just makes you stop and think, wait, what?
Definitely.
That was me with this news out of Indonesia, a fintech firm making a really big Bitcoin play.
Yeah,
And the market's first reaction, well, let's just say it was pretty explosive.
absolutely. So today we're diving into DigiAsia. They're listed on the Nasdaq, ticker
Yep.
FAAS. And yeah, their recent announcement certainly sent some ripples.
It really did. It's not something you see every day, is it? A company going this hard into Bitcoin.
Not at all. It's quite the statement.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What exactly happened? On May 19th, DigiAsia's board, they gave the green light for a Bitcoin Treasury Reserve.
A Treasury Reserve.
And this isn't just, dipping their toes in. They're talking about committing up to 50%, 50, of any net profits they generate to buy Bitcoin.
Half their profits. That's a major allocation.
Right. And to kick things off, they're looking to raise up to $100 million US, specifically to buy BTC.
That is a serious commitment. And it's interesting, they're not just planning to hold it, are they?
No, exactly. They're thinking ahead.
Yeah. They mentioned exploring ways to actually generate yield.
Yeah.
Things like lending, staking, and doing it with regulated partners, which is key.
Right. And they even floated the idea of convertible notes or other sort of crypto-linked instruments tied to their Bitcoin.
So potentially offering investors different ways to get exposure linked to their Bitcoin strategy. It's quite layered.
Okay, now for the market reaction. This is where it gets, well, pretty wild.
Yeah.
So the day they announced this, May 19th, DigiAsia's stock, it just surged up over 91%, closed at 36 cents.
Wow. Nearly doubled. Just like that.
Overnight, basically. What do you think drove that initial, massive jump, especially given where the stock had been?
Well, you often see this, right? The announcement effect, particularly with something like Bitcoin. There's excitement, maybe some speculation jumping in.
Sure.
Investors who are bullish on Bitcoin might see this and think, okay, this company is aligning itself with potential future growth. It's a signal.
It's a strong signal, but that wasn't the end of the story for the day, was it?
No, it wasn't. That initial enthusiasm, it didn't fully hold.
Right, because after the market closed, the stock actually pulled back quite a bit, dropped around 22%, down to 28 cents in after hours.
Wow. Significant correction.
It's a reminder, isn't it, how volatile things can be around crypto news. Maybe some quick profit taking.
Could be. Profit taking is likely part of it. Maybe also a bit of reality setting in after the initial hype. People start thinking about the actual risks, the fundamentals.
Yeah, and the context here is important too. Even after that huge 91% jump, the stock was still down almost 53% for 2025.
Right.
It peaked way higher, just under $12 back in March 2024. So this big Bitcoin news came after a pretty rough patch for the stock price.
Exactly. So that after-hours drop could reflect that longer-term view coming back into focus, weighing the bold new strategy against the recent performance and the inherent risks of allocating so much to Bitcoin.
So is this a company in trouble making a desperate bet? Let's look at their financials. They reported back on April 1st. For 2024, revenue grew 36% year on year, hit $101 million.
That's solid growth, 36%.
Yeah, and they're projecting another 24% growth for 2025, aiming for $125 million in revenue. And they expect earnings before interest and taxes EBIT of around $12 million this year.
Okay, so that paints a different picture, doesn't it? Healthy growth, projecting profits. This doesn't sound like a Hail Mary.
No, it sounds more like a strategic decision from a company that's actually growing.
Which makes the move even more interesting, I think. It suggests they genuinely see Bitcoin as a long-term strategic asset, not just a quick fix.
And, DigiAsia isn't alone in thinking this way. This whole idea of corporate Bitcoin treasuries, it's becoming a trend.
Definitely. We have to mention Michael Saylor's strategy, formerly MicroStrategy. They're the big one, the pioneers in many ways.
Absolutely. They hold a massive amount. What is it now?
The article says 576,230 Bitcoin, worth almost $61 billion. They've really gone all in over the years.
Their conviction is incredible, and they've arguably paved the way, shown it can be done, right?
You could definitely argue that. Their stock often trades almost like a Bitcoin proxy. They've provided a sort of blueprint, maybe.
And others are following. The article mentions Strive Asset Management. They announced on May 7th they're pivoting to become a Bitcoin treasury company.
Another example.
And even GameStop, remember them? They did a $1.5 billion convertible debt offering back in April. And part of the plan for those funds, buying Bitcoin.
Right. GameStop joining the party. It shows the idea is spreading beyond just tech or finance-focused companies.
So what's the scale of this now? How much Bitcoin are corporations holding in total?
Well, according to BitBo data cited in the article, corporate treasuries overall hold over 3 million Bitcoin.
3 million BTC. Wow. What's the value on that?
Over $340 billion.
Okay, that's significant institutional adoption. It's not just a few outliers anymore.
Not at all. It represents a substantial pool of capital moving into Bitcoin as a reserve asset.
So what do the experts think this means long-term? Adam Back from Blockstream. He has a pretty bold take.
He does. Adam Back, co-founder and CEO there, he predicts these Bitcoin-focused treasuries are really driving global adoption.
And his prediction for the market cap.
Get this. He thinks Bitcoin's market cap could hit $200 trillion. Trillion with a T in the next decade.
200 trillion. That's astronomical compared to now.
It is. It's a hugely bullish forecast. But it hinges on this idea of Bitcoin becoming a primary global reserve asset, fueled by corporate and eventually, perhaps, state adoption.
And just for context for you listening, right now, Bitcoin's market cap is around $2 trillion.
Yeah, roughly $2 trillion. And the price when this news broke was hovering around $105,000, $106,000 or so.
So jumping from $2 trillion to $200 trillion, that implies massive, massive growth.
It certainly does. It's a long-term vision, obviously.
And one other point, DigiAsia is Indonesian.
Right. That's worth noting.
The article subtly mentions an Asia Express 2024 review, hinting that Asia is a major hub for crypto adoption.
Yeah, it suggests this trend isn't just centered in North America or Europe. We could see more of this coming out of Asia and other regions too. It points to a potentially broader global shift.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've looked at DigiAsia, this Indonesian fintech. They made a bold move, dedicating potentially half their future profits and raising $100 million for Bitcoin.
Which triggered that huge but volatile stock reaction. 91% up, then 22% down after hours.
And we place this within the bigger picture, this growing trend of companies like Strategy, Strive, even GameStop, adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets.
Right. A trend that some experts, like Adam Back, believe could be fundamentally reshaping Bitcoin's role and value proposition globally, driving significant adoption.
So it leaves us with a really interesting question for you to think about. As more and more companies start doing this, holding Bitcoin, maybe even earning yield on it, what does that mean for the future?
Yeah, what are the ripple effects for, traditional finance?
Yeah.
For standard corporate treasury management? What are the opportunities here?
And the risks, too, not just for these companies, but maybe for the wider economy as this digital asset class gets more deeply integrated.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Maybe even track how these different companies with Bitcoin treasuries perform going forward. It's an evolving story.